A police guy and his dog Max were in big trouble. What Max did that night wasn't just cool, it was like magic. Officer Jake Harper always believed Max, his brave German shepherd, would always help him out. But one night, during a super scary police job, Jake was hurt real bad. He was lying in a dark alley, bleeding, and getting weaker every second. No other cops around, no way to call for help. Just Max, his police dog, standing there with a look like, "I got this." Everything had gone wrong. But Max didn't give up. What he did next shocked everyone at the station. Before we jump into what happened, remember to hit that like button and subscribe, so you never miss a cool story like this. The freezing wind blew through the dark streets of downtown Fairview, with sirens echoing far away. Officer Jake Harper walked fast, staying calm even though the mission was super dangerous. Next to him, his dog Max moved quietly, his eyes watching everything around them. They were supposed to catch some bad guys selling drugs, just a normal bust. But something felt strange. Jake's walkie-talkie made a noise. "Unit 4, do you see the target?" He pushed the button on his shoulder. "Nope. We're going in," Max growled softly. His ears moved. He felt something weird before Jake even noticed anything. Suddenly, bang! A loud gunshot. Jake felt pain hit his chest. He fell back, dizzy. He had been shot. Max jumped in front of him, barking like crazy, daring anyone to come closer. Jake tried to stay awake. His vest helped a little, but the bullet hit below it. Blood started coming out. He could barely hold his gun straight. The walkie-talkie crackled again. "Harper, report." But Jake couldn't answer. His hands were shaking. He was getting weaker. The alley got darker. It got quieter. Max whined and nudged Jake's face. He could feel time was running out. Max knew if he didn't do something fast, Jake wouldn't make it. So Max decided. He looked at Jake one more time, then ran into the night as fast as he could. He had to find help. Would he make it in time? Max ran faster than ever. His paws hit the ground hard. His breath came out fast. He didn't care about the cold. He just wanted to save Jake. The streets were empty and spooky. Only a few streetlights blinked above. Max ran like a shadow, jumping over puddles and dodging trash cans. Then, he smelled something familiar. Officer Ryan Davis, Jake's best buddy. Max sniffed the air. Yes, Ryan was close. Without stopping, Max turned and ran right to him. Ryan was just getting out of his car, radio in hand, when something furry jumped on him. "Whoa! Max? What's going on, boy?" Max grabbed Ryan's sleeve with his teeth and pulled. Ryan stared at him. Max's eyes said, "Come now!" He barked loud and tugged again. Ryan suddenly understood. He'd worked with Max and Jake for a long time. He knew Max wasn't just playing. "Where's Jake? Show me, boy." Max turned and took off. Ryan didn't waste a second. He grabbed his radio and ran. "Officer down! Max found me. We need an ambulance now." "Copy that," came the reply. "Where are you?" "Alley near Pine and 6th, Ryan shouted, chasing Max. Max moved fast through the dark streets until he stopped at the alley. Ryan saw blood, and Jake not moving. "Oh man!" Ryan ran to his friend, dropping to his knees. Jake could barely breathe. He held his side where the bullet hit. Blood was everywhere. "Stay with me, man," Ryan said, pressing his hands on the wound. Max circled them, whining, worried. He nuzzled Jake's face to keep him awake. Jake barely whispered, Did he find you?" Ryan nodded, his voice cracking. "Yeah, Jake, he got me. He saved you." Max whined, licking Jake's cheek. Jake gave a tiny smile. "Good boy." His eyes closed. "No! Stay awake!" Ryan yelled, shaking him. Sirens started getting closer. Max looked up. His ears twitched. Someone was coming. He growled deep in his chest. Ryan stood, pulled his gun. Were the bad guys coming back? Max stood over Jake, ready to protect him. Footsteps. A shadow. Max growled louder. His claws scratched the ground. Then, "Fairview Police! Don't shoot, it's us!" Ryan sighed in relief. Backup had arrived. Max relaxed a little but didn't move from Jake. Paramedics rushed in with their gear. He's lost a lot of blood, Ryan said, stepping aside. Bullet in his left side. Got it, a medic said. They quickly got Jake on a stretcher. He didn't even flinch. Max barked and tried to jump in after him. Easy, Ryan said, holding him back. He'll be okay. The medics worked fast. They wrapped the wound and gave Jake medicine through a tube. He's critical but stable. Taking him now, one said into the radio. Max didn't move. He watched as they took Jake to the ambulance. He gave one long, sad whine. He had done everything he could. Now he had to wait. The doors shut. The sirens wailed. The ambulance drove off into the night. Ryan patted Max. You did good, boy. Real good. Max took slow breaths, still watching where the ambulance disappeared. He wasn't just a dog. He was Jake's guardian. And he wasn't going anywhere. Inside the hospital, the lights flickered as Jake was wheeled through the emergency room. He looked so pale. Doctors shouted instructions. They rushed him into surgery. Outside the room, Max paced, his nails clicking on the floor. He stared at the door Jake had gone through. He didn't understand why he couldn't follow. He'd never been apart from Jake. Ryan sat nearby, watching Max. The dog was tense. Every time a nurse walked by, Max's head snapped up. But no one brought Jake. Easy, buddy, Ryan whispered, petting him. Jake's in good hands. Max whined, pressing his nose to the floor where Jake's scent was strongest. The smell of blood and medicine filled the air. He knew Jake wasn't okay yet. Hours passed. Finally, a doctor came out. He's out of surgery. It was bad, but he's stable. He's going to the ICU. Ryan let out a breath. Can we see him? The doctor looked at Max, then sighed. Fine. Just keep him calm. Ryan opened the door. Max took off, nose in the air, following Jake's scent. In the dark hospital room, Jake was unconscious, hooked up to machines. Max jumped up on the bed, putting his paws near Jake's arm. He sniffed him, then let out a low, sad whine. Ryan sat beside the bed. He's so stubborn. Just like you. Max didn't move. He rested his head on Jake's arm, watching him. The room was quiet, only the beeps from the machines. Ryan leaned back. Guess we're waiting now, huh? Max stayed still, watching, waiting, protecting. The steady beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound in the quiet hospital room. The smell of medicine was strong, but Max didn't care. His big paws were on the bed, and his head rested gently on Jake's arm. Max hadn't moved since they got there. His eyes were glued to Jake's face, waiting. Ryan sat nearby, sipping cold coffee. He looked tired, but Max stayed alert. He wouldn't sleep, eat, or leave Jake's side. A nurse tried to move him once, but Max growled softly. Not mean, just saying. No way. Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. You're a great partner, boy. Max didn't even flick an ear. He was too busy watching, waiting, protecting. Inside the darkness, Jake floated. No pain, just silence. It felt like being in a big, quiet ocean. He heard voices, but they were far away. Then, a familiar sound, a low whine. Max. Jake tried to move, but his body wouldn't listen. He was stuck. The voices got louder, but he couldn't understand them. He felt like he was sinking. Then, a memory flashed. Max as a young pup, looking up at him with eager eyes. Jake had ruffled his fur and said, "We're going to be the best team ever." Another memory. A late-night patrol, Max trotting beside him. Then, the alley, the gunshot, the pain, the darkness. A sharp whimper pulled him back. Jake fought through the fog in his mind. He wasn't alone. Max was waiting. With all his strength, Jake opened his eyes. Ryan almost dropped his coffee. Max's ears perked up as Jake's fingers twitched. The heart monitor beeped faster. Ryan jumped up. "Jake, can you hear me?" Jake's eyelids fluttered. He swallowed. His chest rose slowly. Max barked sharply. Jake whispered, "Max?" Ryan laughed with relief. "He never left your side." Max nudged Jake's arm, his tail wagging slightly. Jake looked at him, his voice hoarse. Saved me again, huh, buddy? Max licked his hand. Ryan smirked. Yeah, and dragged me through half the city to do it. Jake chuckled weakly. He turned his head to meet Max's eyes. They didn't need words. Max had done the impossible. Over the next few days, Jake got stronger. The bullet had missed major organs. The doctor called it a miracle. Jake said it was Max. Max never left his side, even when Jake moved to a private room. Officers came to visit, but Max kept Jake grounded. One night, Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The pain had faded, but something deeper lingered. I should have seen it coming, Jake said. Max lifted his head. Ryan, half asleep in a chair, raised an eyebrow. What? Jake sighed. The shooter. I should have known something was off. I let my guard down. Ryan sat forward. Don't do that. You're one of the best. And Max, he got to you in time. Jake looked at Max, running a hand over his fur. Yeah, he did. Max leaned into the touch, his eyes never leaving Jake's face. Don't blame yourself, Ryan said. You're here. You made it. And Max, he deserves Officer of the Year. Jake chuckled softly. Darn right he does. Max wagged his tail. The hospital room was quiet, except for the beeping monitor and the rustle of blankets as Jake shifted. It had been 3 days since he woke up. The worst was over, but the pain lingered. Max stayed by his side, always watching. He barely slept, always keeping an eye on Jake. Ryan leaned against the door frame, sipping coffee. You look like heck, he said. Jake smirked. Feel worse. Ryan stepped into the room. The precinct's asking about you. They want to throw a parade for Max. He motioned to the dog, whose ears perked up. They want to give him an award. Jake scratched behind Max's ears. He doesn't care about awards. He just cares that I'm still breathing. Ryan sat down, rubbing his face. Yeah, well, we all do. His voice was heavy. Jake paused. Ryan had been there that night. He'd seen the blood, the way Jake's life almost slipped away. Jake sighed. How bad was it? Ryan hesitated, then leaned forward. If Max hadn't gotten to me in time, you wouldn't be here. The truth hit hard. Jake already knew it, but hearing it made it real. That night, Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The painkillers dulled the ache, but his mind was stormy. He kept replaying the alley, the gunshot, the darkness, the helplessness. Max, sensing his distress, lifted his head. His brown eyes met Jake's, full of understanding. You knew, Jake murmured, running his fingers through Max's fur. You felt it before I did. Max didn't move, just let out a quiet whine. I should have listened to you, Jake said. Max nudged his hand, as if to push away the guilt. Jake chuckled softly. You really don't let me sulk, do you? Max licked his hand once, then rested his head on Jake's arm. Ryan had said Jake shouldn't blame himself. The rational side agreed, but the part of him that had been lying on the cold pavement, bleeding, struggling to breathe, that part wasn't so sure. The next morning, the doctor came in to check on him. Your recovery is going well, she said, flipping through his chart. If everything continues improving, you'll be able to leave in a few more days. Jake nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. As soon as she left, he turned to Ryan, who had just walked in with fresh coffee. I need to get back out there, Jake said. Ryan blinked. What? Jake said again. I need to get back to work as soon as the doctor says I can. Ryan let out a little laugh. Jake, you just got shot less than a week ago. You gotta rest, man. But Jake shook his head. I can't just sit here. The longer I stay away, the harder it'll be to go back. Ryan watched him for a minute. Then he sighed. I get it. But don't rush. Your body needs time to heal. Jake looked down at Max, who was staring at him with those serious eyes. So does my head. Ryan didn't argue. He just handed Jake the coffee and sat down beside him. Max let out a deep breath and curled up at Jake's side. He wasn't just a partner, he was a protector. When the time came, he'd be ready to stand by Jake again. A few days later, Jake sat on the edge of the hospital bed. He rolled his shoulders, testing how he felt. The stitches still pulled, but the pain wasn't as sharp. The doctor said he needed another week of rest, but Jake was never good at sitting still. Max sat in front of him, watching every move carefully, ready to help if needed. He knew something was about to happen. Ryan stood by the door with his arms crossed. "You sure you want to do this?" Jake looked up. "I have to." He took a deep breath, then pressed his feet to the cold floor and stood. He wobbled, but Max pressed his strong body against Jake's leg to help steady him. Jake reached down, grabbing Max's thick fur, grounding himself. Ryan watched them, shaking his head. "You two are something else." Jake gave a small smile. "Yeah, well, he's stubborn." Max let out a little huff, like he was agreeing. The first steps were slow. Jake felt every ache in his body. But Max walked right beside him, perfectly in sync, just like always. It wasn't just about healing his body. It was about trust. The last time he was on his feet, he was bleeding out in that alley. The last time he walked, it almost ended everything. Now, every step felt like a promise. When they reached the door, Ryan held it open. "You ready to see the outside world again?" Jake let out a long breath. "Yeah, let's do this." Max stepped out first, ears up, tail steady. His partner was walking again. That meant they'd be back where they belonged, together. Jake took his first steps outside the hospital, feeling the cold air on his face. It wasn't as cold as the night he got shot, but it still gave him a shiver. Max stayed close, always touching Jake's leg lightly, moving carefully. He was more than just a dog. He was Jake's anchor. Every step Jake took, Max matched it perfectly, steadying him if he needed it. Ryan walked beside them, watching carefully. "You sure about this?" Jake let out a slow breath. "I just need to feel normal again." Normal felt so far away after everything. He wasn't just recovering from a bullet. He was recovering from feeling helpless. That night in the alley had shaken him deep down. He'd always been the one to protect others. But that night, he couldn't protect himself. If it wasn't for Max, he wouldn't be here. Max seemed to know what he was thinking. He nosed Jake's hand softly, snapping him out of it. Ryan sighed. "All right, just take it slow. No sudden moves. And if you feel like you're gonna fall, I know." Jake interrupted, a little smile on his face. "Max has got me." Ryan smirked. "Darn right he does." They walked down the steps outside the hospital, heading toward the parking lot. Jake's squad car had been recovered, and he wanted to see it, even if he wasn't ready for duty yet. When they reached the car, Jake stopped. His reflection in the window looked back at him. He looked tired and older. Max sat beside him, waiting. Ryan watched him. "You don't have to rush, Jake." Jake took a breath and grabbed the handle. "I do." He opened the door. The smell of the car, leather, old coffee, Max's fur, hit him hard. He paused only for a second, then got in. His ribs hurt, but he ignored it. Max jumped in the passenger seat. For the first time since that night, Jake felt like himself again. He gripped the wheel, his fingers tracing the edges. Ryan leaned against the open door. "You're not driving yet, buddy." Jake chuckled and shook his head. "I know." Max gave a small huff, like he agreed with Ryan. They sat in silence for a minute. Jake closed his eyes, listening to Max breathing beside him. It grounded him. It reminded him of all the late-night patrols, all the times Max never left his side. Ryan tapped the roof of the car. "All right, you had your moment. Let's get back inside before your doctor yells at me." Jake opened his eyes and nodded. "Yeah." Slowly, he got out. Max jumped down right after him, ready to walk back with him. He wasn't cleared for duty yet, but this was the first step. The first step back to who he was. As they walked into the hospital lobby, some nurses stopped to watch them. Some had been there the night Jake was brought in, not sure he'd make it. Seeing him walking with Max by his side made them smile. A young nurse named Mia stepped forward. "Sergeant Harper, it's good to see you up." Jake nodded. "Feels good to be moving." Mia looked down at Max and smiled. "You, Max, you're famous around here." Max wagged his tail once but kept his serious face. Mia laughed softly. I guess you don't care about being famous, huh? Ryan grinned. Nope, he's too professional for that. They walked back to Jake's room. But just as they got there, the captain walked in. Captain Harris was an older officer, lines on his face from years of hard work. He had been on the job a long time, and everyone respected him. Jake stood a little straighter right away. The captain looked him up and down, then looked at Max. Heard you've been up and walking. Yes, sir, Jake said. The captain nodded. Good. Because as soon as you're cleared, I want you and Max back on duty. Jake blinked. You're not putting me on desk work? Harris scoffed. Harper, if I put you behind a desk, you'd go crazy. You belong out there, with him. He nodded at Max. And that dog, he's worth more than half the force. Ryan smirked. I'd say more than half. The captain didn't smile. I'm not gonna rush you, but when you're ready, your spot's waiting. Jake felt something loosen in his chest. He didn't even know how much he needed to hear that. Thank you, sir, he said quietly. The captain nodded, then started to walk out. But he paused and looked back. Oh, and Harper. Yes, sir? You might want to stop by the mayor's office when you're back. I hear Max is getting some kind of medal. Ryan let out a low whistle. Hear that, boy? You're getting an award. Max wagged his tail a little but didn't take his eyes off Jake. The captain left, and Ryan turned to Jake. Looks like you're not the only hero around here. Jake rubbed Max's head. He's always been a hero. Max leaned into the touch, his warm brown eyes saying everything without words. Jake still had healing to do, but one thing was sure. When he was ready, Max would be there, right by his side. The days ticked by slowly, each one getting Jake a little closer to being strong again. The nurses stopped treating him like he might break, but no one watched him closer than Max. Max never let him out of his sight, not even for a second. Ryan showed up every day with coffee and news from the station. The bad guys who ambushed them were being hunted down, and everyone was talking about Max. You should see the news, Ryan said one morning, scrolling on his phone. They all want to interview the dog who saved his partner. Jake laughed, glancing at Max. You ready to be famous, Spuddy? Max just blinked. He didn't care about that stuff. All he cared about was Jake. By the end of the week, the doctor finally gave him the news he'd been waiting for. You're healing well, Dr. Patel said. You still need therapy, but you're cleared to go home. Home. The word made Jake's chest tighten. He hadn't been home since that night. Ryan clapped him on the shoulder. Guess that makes me your driver today. Jake smirked. Better than calling a cab. Max's ears perked up, feeling the change in mood. He knew Jake was going home. The drive was quiet, with all the memories sitting heavy on Jake's shoulders. If it hadn't been for Max, for Ryan, he wouldn't be here at all. Max sat in the back seat but leaned forward, his head between the front seats, always watching Jake. When they pulled up to Jake's house, Ryan put the car in park. You good? Jake took a deep breath. Yeah. The house looked the same, but somehow different. He stepped out carefully, his legs stiff. Max was at his side in an instant, matching his pace. When Jake opened the door, Max ran in first, sniffing everywhere, checking for danger. He circled back to Jake and let out a soft huff, like saying, It's safe. Ryan leaned in the doorway. Need anything? Jake shook his head. No. I think I just need some time. Ryan nodded. All right. But if you need anything, call me. When Ryan left, it was just Jake and Max, alone for the first time in weeks. Jake knelt down and wrapped his arms around Max. We made it, buddy. Max licked his cheek. They were home. Together. Jake stood outside the police station, breathing in the cold morning air. Max sat right next to him, ears up, eyes locked on Jake. Today was the day. Jake put his hand on Max's head. Ready to get back out there, partner? Max wagged his tail once. That was his answer. They stepped inside. Other officers clapped and nodded as they walked past. Jake was back, and with Max at his side, nothing could stop them. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves amazing stories like this. Stay tuned for more awesome stories about loyalty and courage.